The Utah Utes appear to be very close to naming their next head men's basketball coach. We're going to talk about what all of the insiders are reporting on today's Locked On Utes.
You are Locked On Utes, your daily podcast on the Utah Utes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for making Locked On Utes your first listen and view of the day. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. If it's your first time listening to the show, make sure you like and subscribe. My name is JT Wistrcill, former intern inside the University of Utah Athletic Department. Excited to be joined on today's show by Brice Larson, who is one of the hosts on Brice and Bianucci, 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 103.9 and 98.3 FM, the Utah ESPN Radio Network. Brice, Utah appears to be very close to naming who their next men's basketball coach is. And don't take my word for it. Take it from every insider. Let's start with the local guys because they're on this. Like Alex Markham, right? He's the one who said things continue to trend positively for Utah basketball coaching search, with the school targeting Alex Jensen. There's a lot of optimism behind the scenes for a deal. Both sides are extremely engaged at this point. I don't expect an official announcement today. Steve Bartle said too from KSL Sports. He tweeted out that he believes the decision will come quickly once Jensen is officially offered the deal. And he said there's conflicting reports on if he's been offered the contract. Alex Markham did say that he's been offered the contract too. So it seems like, and Sean O'Connell, right? He even reported, multiple sources telling me that former Utah and longtime NBA assistant Alex Jensen is coming home to take the Utah men's basketball. Then he walks it back saying the ink isn't dry apparently, but this is how I think it will end up. All these guys, then you get Jeff Goodman as well as John Ronstein reporting that Alex Jensen's emerged as the primary candidate. Brice, I'm even hearing similar things. It seems like Alex Jensen is going to be the guy. I'd be surprised if this didn't come out sometime this week because there's so much noise around it. None of the insiders are even saying there's another top candidate. So I'd be just shocked if Alex Jensen is not the guy.
Yeah, you never know. You never know if there's contract negotiations that go on throughout the conversations that they have as well, and we'll see if he is ended. If he is the guy, but I would also be surprised if he ended up not being the next head coach of the Utah men's basketball program. But what a pickup! You got to talk about. They knew who they were going to go and get. Things like this do not happen this quickly unless they knew exactly who they were going for and who they were targeting. This is their guy, and I'm not surprised that he's the one that they throw the money at and go and try and find to turn around this Utah basketball program.
Reports were that they met very quickly with Jensen after moving on from Coach Smith, and it's just been all the momentum, as we said. I mean, even the national guys all saying, hey, this is the primary target. I do think Sean O'Connell, Steve Bartle, Alex Markham, I think they've all done a tremendous job of reporting on this, following up through. And I think when this does eventually come out, maybe it'll even go to a bigger guy. But this feels like it is a win for the local reporters for doing a good job of being on this, narrowing the search down so quickly. I mean, it's amazing how quickly even an Andre Miller, who at the time we thought maybe he's the more famous player between the two. So maybe he'll be the guy. His name is kind of fallen back in the assistant coach rumors, and that's something Markham reported on recently. So we'll have to touch on that another time too. But look, the timing of this hire is crazy, right? How quickly it all came together. But Brice, this feels like it was absolutely the right hire for Utah. Because if anything else, this is a basketball program that desperately needs some life injected into it. And a former alumni who accomplished a lot here that appears to have the backing of the boosters is exactly the life this program needs.
Absolutely. You mentioned it. The backing of the boosters. From what I've been told, the entire situation of moving on from Craig Smith was really spurred by the boosters. They want to get behind somebody who used to be there at the University of Utah, a guy who was under Rick Majerus, a guy who understands that basketball program. And Alex Jensen is that dude. And if you can get the support that you need in today's age of college athletics, where it's NIL, it's transfer portal, it's everything else besides basketball, really, for a head coach, that Alex Jensen seems to be the guy. Now, you look down south. Yeah, I know. You look down south with BYU and what they've been able to do with Kevin Young. You go to the NBA, you find an NBA assistant. coach, and that's kind of the pattern right now in college basketball. So you follow that same pattern. You go get your guy at Alex Jensen, who's been around the NBA, who can tell those recruits, hey, I know what it's like. If you want to get to the NBA, I know what it's like. That's what Alex Jensen is going to bring to the table. Not only knowing the program himself, having been in it for quite some time, he's the perfect candidate to bring home to Utah and make the next head coach of the Runnin' Utes.
It definitely feels like it. And I think, look, just because BYU did it first doesn't mean it's a bad thing that, we have to do what the Cougars did. If it works, it works. And it's clear Kevin Young is having success as part of that due to the NIL backing. Of course, every college team that's experiencing success right now has a large NIL backing. But Kevin Young's a very good coach. And Alex Jensen is so respected around the NBA. Being in Utah as long as he was. And then from Utah, going to the Mavs right away, a team that already had Luka in place at the time he got there, like being added to that stat. Jason Kidd obviously valued his opinion. This is a guy, he hasn't been a head coach in a long time. I think his last experience was at the G League, and that was over 10 years ago. But he knows the game of basketball so well. Someone who, as you even hinted at, Brice, knows what it takes to win at Utah. I'm fired up about this hire. Like we said, feels like the hire this program needs. And I think that there's a really good chance that Utah basketball can get back to a place where it does make the NCAA tournament every couple years. We could talk about what the realistic ceiling of this team is another time. I on my show have said just a team that can make it a couple years, but at least it's back to being respected, even in conference as well as in the Big 12. I do feel like Utah will get there with Jensen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just a couple of steps away. I mean, look at what they were able to accomplish this year. They were picked last in the conference of the Big 12, and they've overachieved. And that's still not good enough for this program, knowing where this program has been under Rick Majerus before, and just knowing where Alex Jensen could potentially take this team and this program. Yes, I think that the expectation probably should be maybe every other year would be the highest expectation. Just try to get to the NCAA tournament, win some games. And of course, it's always about beating BYU. You got to beat BYU. And if you could do that, you're going to be loved up there on the hill.
1,000%. Well, and even that's the thing, right, though? But like Utah did beat BYU. They've done it a couple times under Craig Smith, too. But so beat BYU and make the NCAA tournament. It's that combination, too.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to have both of them. One other thing I want to point out about Alex Jensen that just kind of talks to what type of coach he is. Not a lot of people remember this, but when he was with the Utah Jazz, he started his stint out with the Utah Jazz under Ty Corbin before Quinn Snyder even got there. So you got to remember when Quinn Snyder gets there, the only coach that he retained on that staff was Alex Jensen. That shows you, like, Quinn Snyder's that type of guy that would just clean house and bring his own dudes in, whatever. That shows you what type of coach Alex Jensen is, to have been retained not only just on the staff, but his number one overall assistant as well. That says a lot coming from Quinn Snyder, an NBA guy. That shows you that Alex Jensen's a guy that can be trusted with some pretty important tasks when it comes to basketball.
Absolutely. And barring Brice, I'm going to compare this to the DeAndre Jordan Dallas Mavericks signing, for all those that can remember that, like 8 years ago, like where he signed with the Mavs and then the Clippers reportedly like stormed in and like forced him to come back. Like, barring something of that level of shock, it feels like he's going to be the guy charged with the important basketball decisions that involve getting the Running Utes back to a strong basketball program. But it doesn't make up for the fact that this is a very quick hire. At least it appears like it's going to be. So is that the right move? Will Jensen get the support he needs? How quickly can we expect Utah basketball to be back? We're talking about all those factors in one moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Utes is brought to you by our friends at Supply House. Get the supplies you need from the site made for skilled trades. Supply House. Whether you're into plumbing, HVAC, or electric work, Supply House is the reliable way to order products online. Their easy-to-use website is packed with helpful resources and the latest product info to help you get the job done right. Plus, with a complete inventory of over 2,000 parts from 400-plus top brands, you'll find exactly what you need, delivered fast from coast to coast. Need help with an order? Supply House offers expert support and industry-leading service, so you'll always talk to a real person. And for trade pros looking for an extra edge, their free trade Trade Master program offers exclusive perks like a dedicated phone line, free shipping, and discounts on every order. Thousands of skilled professionals are already taking advantage. Now it's your turn. Join the Trade Master program today at supplyhouse.com/TM and start ordering plumbing, HVAC, and electrical supplies with just a few clicks. Plus, use the promo code SH5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com today. Brice Larson back with me here talking about the Utah men's basketball hiring process. And Brice, it was a very quick process. At least it appears like it was. As we mentioned, every report right now is only Alex Jensen. I haven't seen anyone else thrown around in this. So it begs the question, like, should this have been a search that takes longer? I'm okay with it because I feel like they got the best man for the job, as I said, the man who's going to inject life into this program. But do you feel like they should have done a longer and maybe wider search, at least than it appears that they did so far? Steve Bartle reported they did a couple interviews, so I'm not saying they only talked to Alex Jensen, but at least that appears definitely like the main guy they did speak to.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of those other ones was Richard Pitino, which I would have no problem with if they wanted to bring it from New Mexico. The only thing that I would say about this and the speed of which this has happened is this is all about the boosters. This is all about who they want to back, who they want to provide the NIL money. You see it across all of college sports. You see it especially here in the state of Utah with what BYU was able to do with AJ Dybonsa. It's all about who the boosters are going to give that money to. If you don't have NIL money, you're not going to be a successful program. That's just the way it is in today's day and age of college athletics. So I think that with them knowing who they want to go with the boosters sharing their opinions of saying, hey, this is who I want. This is who I will support. It makes a lot of sense that Alex Jensen is the guy, that they really haven't done too many other interviews, or you haven't heard any other names thrown around, because that's who the boosters want to support. That's who they're putting their money behind. That's who they're backing. And really that's the most important thing when it comes to college athletics right now.
It is. It 1000% is. In the past, I've heard several stories, as I'm sure you probably have too, Brice, of Utah losing out on players for basketball because other schools were offering more NIL. Hopefully, with the coach in there that gets the boosters excited, that won't happen as frequently. Still going to happen. We saw it with Utah football that all reports say it's well-funded. You lose a Cameron Calhoun and even a Tanu Vasa. But hopefully you can get a good group of players in there. But the question will be then, it's a quick hire. How quickly can, if Jensen doesn't indeed get this job soon, how quickly can he turn this program around? Brice, I believe the answer to that is decently quickly. I mean, we just see this across college sports right now. You bring in a new coach, you bring in the right mix of portal players, you can make the tournament like right away. Kevin Young is obviously going to do that with BYU, and I know they got in there last year still, but just like it feels like right away Utah could. Should they be expected to right away? No, I think by year 3, if year 3 of Alex Jensen is not that, if you have not made it by that point, then I think you're like, okay, we want to just like we did with Craig Smith, right? He 3 years didn't make the tournament, then they move on from early. But I would be surprised if 1 to 2 years into this, outside of maybe just being the gauntlet that is the Big 12, if Utah wasn't at least challenging for a spot in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, you talk about the gauntlet that is the Big 12. It's not only the gauntlet, but it's also the opportunity to have quad 1 victories, not only at home, but on the road. That's what it takes to get into the NCAA tournament. And week in and week out, you have multiple of those quad 1 opportunities every single time you step out on the floor. So it's kind of tough to be in the Big 12 conference. Really, you just got to be like the 6th place team, the 7th or 8th place team in the Big 12 conference, and you could make the NCAA tournament. You just got to put together a squad that's good enough to go out on the road specifically, because we've seen it this year with this Running Utes team. They cannot win on the road, JT. I don't know what it is. It's college basketball in general. It's tough to win on the road. Mm-hmm. If you can go out and win a couple on the road in the next couple of years, I feel like that's really doable. I feel like the team this year could have gotten a couple of those wins done. And you just go on the road, you win a couple of them, you're going to be in the NCAA tournament. I don't think it's that crazy to think that even next year, if they bring in Alex Jensen, he could be in the NCAA tournament.
It's not crazy at all because of what we mentioned. There are they're a team that does. Last year they nearly made it. They're supposed to be even better NIL backing too. You got an NBA pedigree, so guys who want to go to the next level are now going to look at it like, hey, longtime NBA assistants. And we talked about the Andre Miller angle of this as well, with a lot of reports saying he'll be joining along too. So you want to get to that next level, come with the best. Utah can offer that, and that is something that is incredibly exciting. And like I said, Brice, I just don't feel like the expectation for Utah, and you believe too, should be get back every single year, but just getting basketball just respected again. And just, I mean, mattering in Utah, there've been so many jokes about the curtains. Like that's been, I haven't been up this year, but like that's plagued this team, like getting Utah basketball back in a place where it's revered, and people in the Big 12 are like, oh no, we got, right now it's like, oh, we got to go to BYU, but, and maybe we don't want to like Utah to catch us sleeping. But what if you want Unless it to be like school? Yeah, exactly. You want it to be like, oh crap, we got to go to Utah right now. They're on a roll right now. Alex Jensen has this team playing the right way. That is to get the respect back that this program once had long ago. It's also a major part of this, and it feels like Jensen is the right guy to bring that respect and pedigree back.
The BYU Utah road swing that Big 12 teams would have to run, if Alex Jensen could bring this program back, will be the toughest road swing in the Big 12 conference. Back to back, having to play Utah and BYU. Yeah, it's going to be a tough one.
It will be. It will be incredibly tough. And that's the hope. And how quickly can Alex Jensen get this thing generated and going, as long as, once again, if all the reports are being believed, and I trust the people that are talking about this, it feels like this is where we're indeed heading. So we're going to continue to monitor this situation as it continues to go on. One thing that will define Alex Jensen's success at Utah is NIL. The women's athletic programs at Utah just got a major NIL boost. We're going to tell you about that here in 1 second. Brice Larson back in here with me. And Brice, Utah got a major boost to their athletic programs as it was announced by, comes to us from the Utah Athletics Just X account, announcing a transformational $14 million estate gift from an anonymous donor to support Utah women's athletic programs. This legacy gift will create an endowment that will significantly benefit key initiatives for women's athletics at Utah. And this is, I think it's tremendous. I mean, in the NIL era too, just all you're trying to do as well too. You're trying to have in recruiting too, right? You want the best facilities. You want the best athletes. This is a donation that absolutely helps. You're trying to keep the gymnastics, basketball program, women's soccer, all these programs the best they can be at. It's money. It's a money game. That's what college athletics is. This is huge for Utah to get this.
Oh, absolutely. And you look over the last 5-10 years or so, and what's been the most productive as well as the most successful programs at the University of Utah. Women's basketball, softball was big a couple of seasons ago when they made their run a little while ago. Just across the board, gymnastics is huge with the Red Rocks. It's awesome to see the support for Utah women's athletics. And I think actually the entire state of Utah really loves to support women's athletics across the board. This is awesome to see. $14 million is no small amount of money. So it's really cool to see that someone stepped up and was able to donate this towards those women's programs.
It is as well. And like we mentioned too, just more. And you get the $20 million from the revenue share as well. You're getting donations like this. We're hearing about rumors of the basketball NIL being up to Utah I don't think they're going to do what Texas Tech's done, right? Texas Tech for football is kind of insane. Like they got a top 3 portal class, all things like that. But Utah can absolutely do enough to me to retain most of their elite players and still add quality transfer additions. We saw that in football, right? With Devin Dampier, you lure him and you keep Spencer Fano. Spencer Fano is a very loyal guy, so it would have been surprising to see him leave. But if he had an offer that was so like insane, he would have probably thought about it. The fact that Utah was able to keep him speaks to what their NIL can be. So I do feel like that Utah Athletics overall, Brice, is in a position that allows them to continue to compete across all sports with their conference opponents in the Big 12 and even do enough where like, hey, you're getting an NCAA March Madness type of game. You have talent on the floor that could upset one of the top dogs in the SEC or Big 10.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that there's obviously a lot of support. It's all about just stepping up and being able to find the right people to go out and fundraise that type of money, going out and having the success. It always, if you have a little bit of success somewhere, that kind of precedes having even more money given to the program. And once you're able to do that, it's kind of like a snowball effect. It just goes downhill. and you're able to figure it out, and the more successful you actually become in the meantime. This is a big deal. I think this is a really big deal, and it's the next step for Utah athletics. Can they continue to bring that money in-house? Can they continue to retain some of the top talent? I think that something is starting to change with Utah athletics a little bit.
It feels like it. Now we'll see if it changes on the court for the Utah men's basketball program. We're going to continue to monitor this story throughout the week. When is Alex Jensen going to officially be named the head coach? Are we going to see the unthinkable at this point? It doesn't come to fruition. It seems highly, highly, highly unlikely right now, just based on all the noise and smoke around it. But you never know. So we will continue to discuss it on this show. Brice, always appreciate making the time to stop by. Let everyone know where they can continue to listen to more of your work.
Absolutely. 103.9 FM or 98.3 FM, depending on where you are in the state of Utah. Every single morning from 7 to 10 a.m. will be on Brice and Bianucci, covering everything across the entire state of Utah, whether it's the Running Utes coaching search or the Utah Jazz, Utah Hockey Club, all across the board. We're going doing a little deep dive with all the teams that's going to be in March Madness coming up here around the corner, covering it all here in the state of Utah on 103.9 and 98.3 ESPN, The Fan. So come on over and join us. You can also hit us up on the Brice and Bianucci podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.
March Madness. That's what Utah trying to get back into it with this type of a hire. We'll see now. And Utah Valley flexed the as well.
I'll be down in Vegas. WAC tournament, WCC tournament, covering it all.
Yeah, it should be. It's always fun to see what goes on in the WAC, and it's fun to be a part of March Madness. We'll see how long Utah's run they're able to make in the Big 12 tournament, but especially see how, when this team is back involved in meaningful games in March. Women's team is. We'll be talking about that more on this week's Locked On Utes on tomorrow's show. But Brice, once again, always appreciate making the time to come on.
Absolutely. Anytime, JT.
That's going to do it for our show. We'll continue to keep you up with the latest on all things Utah athletics related next time.